The feeling was just amazing.
It was a tough game.
We fought until the end.
No Italian teams in the quarterfinals.
July 9th, 2006, Berlin. The football world holds its breath. Fabio Cannavaro lifts the World Cup high into the air. Gigi Buffon's incredible saves became legendary. Totti, Del Piero, and Pirlo, icons of Italian football, had finally cemented their legacies. This was Italy, a nation of warriors, tacticians, and artists. 4 World Cups, 2 European Championships, built on an iron defense, pure grit, and moments of absolute magic. They didn't just win, they defined an era. In their golden age, Italy had true artists on the pitch. Totti, the king of Rome, the maestro with eyes that seemed to see the future. Roberto Baggio, the divine ponytail, could carry teams on his back. Alessandro Del Piero made defenders look foolish with one single touch. And when it came to defense, they were untouchable. Franco Baresi was the iron wall with his tough tackles. Paolo Maldini was a perfect mix of elegance and brutality, and Alessandro Nesta made every tackle count. They were more than defenders. They were as important as match winners. Italy's footballing DNA was clear: defend with pride, attack with brilliance. But now that legendary Italy is gone, no Cannavaro barking orders in the back line, no Pirlo to control the midfielding with his passing, no Baggio to save the day. Instead, Italy became a shadow of itself. A nation once feared, now mocked, missing penalties that haunted their fans, shock losses that shattered their pride, and back-to-back World Cups watched from home. At Euro 2024, Italy put on their worst performance against Switzerland in decades.
Come on then, what have you got to say about Italy?
Worst team in the tournament.
Worst team?
Worst team. They shouldn't have got to, I mentioned the goal earlier that they got was a great goal. They're the worst team in the tournament. I'm so disappointed in Italy. Do you know what? They offered nothing.
Certainly cannot justify this sort of performance. And Spalletti wasn't part of the solution. He was most definitely part of the problem.
Let's go back to the game. People have said it's the worst Italy performance in a major tournament ever.
The decline of Italy has shocked everyone. Fans and pundits alike are disappointed, and the whole football world is scratching its head over today's Italy.
Don, how shocked are you to see Italy lose this game?
It's embarrassing, Kay, to be honest. So you come in after the game and you hear the news that North Macedonia have won. We've seen the goal earlier, brilliant strike, but you can't just bury this result. You can't. If you're in charge, if you're Mancini or at a higher level, boardroom level, you can't. You have to take a step back and you've got to look at this and think, this can't happen. Italian football, this can't happen. This freak result against North Macedonia shouldn't happen. And if it does, you can't bury it. You've got to look for reasons why.
Non si può dire niente. Abbiamo fatto bene.
Mai palla a terra.
Fatto schifo.
Mai palla a terra.
L'Italia che non si qualifica ai mondiali.
Il miglior attaccante non ha giocato niente, Insigne.
Una vergogna.
What happened to Del Piero, Tim? What happened to the goal scorers with this team? Yeah. Where's Pippo Inzaghi? Yeah. Where's Totti? Yeah. Where's Paolo Rossi? Where's Roberto Baggio? Where's his less talented brother, Dave Baggio?
His haircut.
No one talks about Dave Baggio. Yeah. Where's Dino Baggio? What happened to goal scorers? You know what? Andrea Pirlo was pretty good, eh? He made a lot of ordinary soccer players look really good because that team look. Panama's going to World Cup. Panama, 4-time World Cup champions?
How does a nation that once invented catenaccio and inspired the world fall apart like this? In 2006, Italy reached the top of world football. They had just won the World Cup. A golden era was expected to follow. Marcello Lippi had created a team that was disciplined, rock solid in defense, and deadly on the counterattack. But during the tournament, disaster struck. A scandal so big, it shook Italian football to its core. Calciopoli. Juventus, Milan, and Fiorentina weren't just cheating. They were rigging the games itself, influencing referees to decide results before the ball was even kicked. The fallout was a football apocalypse. Juventus, the giants of Italian football, thrown into Serie B. Other clubs were crippled by penalties, sponsors vanished overnight, investors left. Serie A, once the world's greatest league, was now a crime scene. For years, Serie A was the center of world football. If you were a superstar, you played in Italy. Maradona at Napoli, Zidane at Juventus, Ronaldo at Inter Van Basten at AC Milan. From 1988 to 2000, Serie A players won 8 out of 13 Ballon d'Ors, a dominance unmatched by any other league. The league had the best players, the biggest stadiums, the most money. Between 1989 and 2007, Italian clubs won 7 Champions League titles. They reached 11 finals in 14 years. It was the Premier League before the Premier League, but now it was in ruins. And as Serie A crumbled, so did the national team. Euro 2008, Italy made it to the quarterfinals, but their game against Spain revealed an uncomfortable truth. They were outdated. A 0-0 draw, followed by a penalty shootout loss, showed that their iconic defensive style was struggling against modern possession-based football. Even their captain, Gigi Buffon, saw the writing on the wall. We're stuck in the past, the world was evolving, and Italy was being left behind. 2 years later, the disaster struck in full force. Just 4 years after lifting the trophy, Italy arrived at the 2010 World Cup as defending champions and imploded. A shaky draw against Paraguay, a humiliating 1-1 draw against New Zealand, and when they faced Slovakia, they needed a win to survive. Instead, they collapsed. A 3-2 defeat. They didn't just crash out in the group stage, they failed to win a single game. For the first time in World Cup history, the reigning champions looked like amateurs. But why did Italy collapse? The answer was simple: money, or the lack of it. The Italian league's financial crisis meant no proper investment in young talent. Meanwhile, other leagues became richer and more competitive. Top talents now dream of playing for Barcelona or Real Madrid. Premier League clubs can offer huge salaries and steal the best talent from Italy. Because of this, Italy lost its prestige. Less respect meant less money. Less money meant weaker teams. Weaker teams meant fewer stars. It became a vicious cycle. With tight budgets, Italian clubs had no choice but to sell their best players. They also stopped modernizing their team. Instead of investing in young talents, Italian clubs relied on players over 30 years old, basically past their prime. The league became known as the Football Retirement League. Who could forget AC Milan signing an overweight Ronaldo? A legend, but no longer the unstoppable force he once was. Or the desperation of bringing in David Beckham on loan from an MLS club. A move that screamed nostalgia over ambition. The next generation of Italian stars never arrived. Italy had hit rock bottom. But football is a cycle. Surely they would rise again, right? Euro 2012 sparked new hope. Under Prandelli, Italy played with energy, pressed high, and for the first time in years, looked like a team ready to evolve. Mario Balotelli's grace against Germany in the semi-final felt like a statement, but the final against Spain was a brutal wake-up call. 4-0, the worst defeat in European Championship final history. Italy stepped on the pitch with a 3-5-2, a system built for the past, not the future. Spain's relentless press suffocated them, their midfield carved open like a training drill. For decades, Italy's defense was their fortress, impenetrable and feared. But now, it was outdated, slow, and crumbling against modern football philosophies. While Italy's tactics were failing, something worse was happening off the pitch. By 2011 to 2012, another problem was brewing, one far bigger than formations or tactics. The economic recession had sent shockwaves through Italian football. The 2008 financial crash had already left scars. Then came the Eurozone debt crisis. And suddenly, clubs found themselves drowning in financial uncertainty. Public and private investments in youth development dried up. Academies stagnated. Training facilities aged. Italy's pipeline of talent slowly fading away. Top clubs like Milan and Inter were forced to cut spending drastically. Only Juventus managed to survive due to better financial management, but Serie A as a whole fell behind other European leagues, unable to compete for top players. With limited funds available, the Italian Football Federation and clubs failed to implement necessary reforms. Unlike Germany, which rebuilt its footballing identity after its Euro 2000 disaster with cutting-edge academies and tactical innovation, Italy lacked funds to modernize. Many Italian stadiums and training facilities are stuck in the past, lacking the modern upgrades that top European clubs now take for granted. It's not just about empty seats or old infrastructure. These outdated facilities have slowed down player development. Without cutting-edge training environments, Italy has struggled to produce world-class talent. To make things worse, most clubs don't even own their stadiums. They play in government-owned venues, meaning they have no control over matchday revenue. While clubs in England, Spain, and Germany profit from ticket sales, sponsorships, and stadium expansions, Italian teams remain financially restricted, unable to reinvest in their future. The result? A national team that was running on fumes. Then came Brazil 2014. A chance to rebuild? A shot at redemption? No, just another nightmare. A shock loss to Costa Rica, a defeat to Uruguay, and just like that, Italy was out. Humiliated. Another group stage exit. Italy had a glaring problem. No one could score. Just 2 goals in 3 games. Balotelli, once a hero, now inconsistent. Immobile, drowning on the big stage. Insigne, benched and forgotten. Italy without strikers, screamed the headlines dominating post-tournament debates. Fans demanded an answer. How did a nation once home to Baggio, Rossi and Vieri end up here? A team with no firepower, no killer instinct. No one could finish the job. Once again, blame fell on Serie A's academies. Why weren't strikers being developed anymore? For decades, Italian football was built on defensive discipline, rigid, tactical, almost military-like. But times had changed. Germany and France evolved. They embraced sports science, analytics, and creativity. Italy, stuck in the past, failing to produce world-class attacking players. Euro 2016 was another mixed bag. Italy under Conte fought hard but got eliminated in the quarterfinals. And then, 2018, the lowest point in Italian football history. Under manager Ventura, Italy hit rock bottom. His Italy was lost. No plan, no direction, no hope. A 0-0 draw against Sweden in Milan. The final embarrassment. Buffon, the legend, the last man standing, retired in tears. Italy's fall was complete. But the real disgrace wasn't just on the pitch. Inside boardrooms, behind closed doors, chaos reigned. Political infighting, ego battles, a federation more obsessed with power than progress. The Italian Football Federation was heavily criticized for appointing Ventura, a man unprepared, outdated, and overwhelmed. But the real disaster was deeper. Youth academies abandoned. No grassroots investment. No long-term vision to improve the Italian league. These failures left the national team in complete decline. Italy was out of the World Cup for the first time since 1958. Had they completely lost their way? After the disaster of missing the 2018 World Cup, Italy needed a new identity. Enter Roberto Mancini. He was known for his tactical intelligence and ability to develop young players. Mancini introduced a modern 4-3-3 system built on possession, pressing, and attacking football. His impact was immediate. Italy stormed through Euro 2020 qualification, winning all 10 games, scoring 37 goals and conceding just 4. His 34-game unbeaten streak restored hope across the nation. At Euro 2021, his Italy side played with a level of fluidity and intensity that had not been seen in years. In the final at Wembley, they fought hard against England and won with smart tactics and pure determination. Jorginho, Barella, and Chiesa became the team's heartbeat, while Bonucci and Chiellini reminded the world of Italy's defensive heritage. Mancini's Italy were champions. Redemption, it seemed, was complete. But it was short-lived. Italy failed to qualify for the 2022 World Cup. Their opponent? North Macedonia. Italy was ranked 6th in the FIFA rankings. North Macedonia, 67th. A massive gap in international football. Bookmakers gave Italy a 95% chance to win. Instead, they suffered their first home defeat in World Cup qualifying since 1999. This wasn't just a loss, it was humiliation. This defeat meant Italy missed 2 straight World Cups, 2018 and 2022 for the first time ever. Italy's best players were physically and mentally exhausted. The team heavily relied on the same core players to deliver in high-stake moments. 2024 Euro qualifiers? Another disaster. Mancini, the man who brought Italy back to glory, walked away in 2023. Why? Disagreements with the Italian Football Federation, or the FIGC. Mancini had a vision for the future: investment in youth, structural reforms, a more competitive Serie A. The FIGC, cost-cutting, short-termism, slow bureaucratic processes. But the cracks ran deeper. Mancini also warned that too many foreign players in Serie A limited opportunities for Italian players and reduced the number of players available for the national team. Other critics pointed to France, Germany, and England, nations that had successfully integrated immigrant talent into their national teams. Yet in Italy, there was a different reality. The FIGC failed to recruit or develop from Italy's growing immigrant communities. France had Mbappe, Germany had Musiala, Italy had no equivalent. Mancini tried to change that. He brought in Wilfred Gnonto of Ivorian descent and Matteo Cancellieri of Argentine-Italian heritage. But the options were limited. Even Jorginho and Emerson Palmieri, both born in Brazil, were naturalized, but often faced public backlash for not being Italian enough. Mancini stood by them, especially after Jorginho's pivotal role in Italy's Euro 2020 triumph. It was a dramatic shift from his past views. Back in 2015, Mancini insisted that only players born in Italy should represent the national team, even if their parents were Italian. Then there was the issue nobody in power wanted to confront: racism. Serie A had become infamous for it. Even Italian internationals weren't spared. Mario Balotelli, born and raised in Italy, was never accepted. Fans threw bananas at him. Monkey chants rang out. The authorities silent. Even if he has Italian citizenship, he can never be completely Italian, claimed Luca Castellini, leader of Hellas Verona's Ultras. Moise Kean, another young Italian talent, was racially abused in a Juventus match. Instead of defending him, his own national teammate, Bonucci, blamed him for provoking the crowd. It wasn't just Italians. Even foreign players suffered. Lukaku, Umtiti, Juan Jesus. Each year, the list of victims grew, but change never came. While no elite player has ever refused to play for Italy solely because of racism, the toxic atmosphere pushed talent elsewhere. Mancini publicly supported his players, but in doing so, he clashed with the FIGC's reluctance to address the issue. It was another battle he couldn't win. When he left, a leadership vacuum followed. To replace him, Luciano Spalletti was appointed as head coach. Spalletti, fresh off winning Serie A with Napoli, was chosen for his tactical expertise and ability to build attacking teams. However, his transition to the national team was challenging. As Italy continued to struggle with squad depth and consistency, Italy's lack of young stars and tactical stagnation was exposed. And at Euro 2024, a disaster decade in the making. They crawled through the group stage. Their attack, lifeless. Defense, exposed. Then came Switzerland, a humiliation so complete, fans were left asking, is Italy still Italy? The numbers told the story. Italy had one of the oldest squads at Euro 2024, while nations like France and England were built around youth. The Italian media was ruthless. Headlines called it a national embarrassment, with pundits criticizing the lack of identity and leadership on the pitch. Fans expressed their frustration, comparing this Italy side to past greats and lamenting how far the team had fallen. Since then, the Italian Football Federation has been desperately searching for answers. They studied how other nations rebuilt their footballing identity. France kept producing world-class players, while England transformed into a powerhouse by investing in youth development. To catch up, Italy began modernizing their youth system. They introduced reforms to focus on player development rather than outdated defensive tactics. The National Training Center is being upgraded with new pitches, advanced recovery facilities, and cutting-edge analytics labs, a project inspired by England's St. George's Park. They also recognize the importance of expanding their scouting network, taking inspiration from France, which has successfully integrated players from diverse backgrounds. The results are slowly taking shape. Players like Retegui of Atlanta and Udogi of Spurs have joined the national team. Finally, Luciano Spalletti has emphasized integrating younger players, pushing for a more dynamic and attacking approach. But deep-rooted issues within the league and national setup still hinder progress, leaving the future of Italian football uncertain. Italy was once football royalty, the land of Baresi, Maldini, Baggio, and Pirlo, a nation where defending was an art and winning was a tradition, but now a fallen empire. 2 missed World Cups, their worst Euro campaign in decades, a team with no identity. Even the culture is shifting. Younger generations are turning to esports and other sports, and football no longer holds the same unifying power it once did. Is this the end of Italian football, or just another painful chapter before a comeback? From Calciopoli to a World Cup, from missing the World Cup in 2018 to Euro 2020 glory, history says Italy will rise again. The world will write them off, the critics will celebrate their downfall, but one day Italy will return, and when they do, the world will remember why they were feared.